boulder on Lot 8 doesn't appear to have been manipulated by any of the known earlier searchers. There's nothing in the record, which means we might be dealing with something that we know is untampered with.
A storm rolled over Oak Island, and with it came a moment no one was prepared for. Standing at the edge of the dig site, Rick Lagina stared down into the darkness below, his heart racing, not from the cold, but from the feeling that something was about to change forever. For centuries, this island had protected its secrets. It had drained fortunes, crushed hopes, and even taken lives. Every attempt to uncover its truth had ended the same way, in failure. But today felt different, because deep beneath the surface, something long buried was finally within reach. Something ancient, something hidden away for hundreds of years, sealed off, untouched, waiting. And now, for the first time in generations, that barrier was about to be broken. Rick had no idea yet what he was standing above, but within moments, he would come face to face with a discovery that could rewrite everything we thought we knew about Oak Island, and possibly uncover a secret tied to the legendary Knights Templar, a secret that may have been hidden since the early 1300s. And what lies behind it has never been seen before. Before we go any further, hit that like button and subscribe, because what's about to be revealed, you won't believe is real. At nearly 140 feet beneath the battered surface of Oak Island, the drill hit something unexpected. This wasn't loose shale or broken limestone. It was smooth, unnaturally smooth. A perfectly flat stone, fitted so precisely it looked placed, not formed, like part of a design no natural force could ever create. The crew froze. Rick Lagina stepped forward, brushing away the damp soil with steady hands. His breath fogged in the cold air as he leaned closer. This wasn't geology, this was intention. Ground-penetrating radar quickly confirmed what everyone was already feeling. Behind that slab, there was space. A clean, rectangular void where no void should exist. On the monitor, glowing outlines revealed it clearly. A hidden cavity waiting just beyond reach. "It looks like a chamber," Marty said under his breath. Rick shook his head slightly. "Not a chamber, a door." The analysis moved fast. Embedded within the stone were traces of iron, small fragments consistent with forged hinges. Not natural inclusions. Crafted metal. Even after centuries underground, the signature of human work remained. Rick's thoughts raced back to the mysterious stone triangle discovered on the island in the 1800s. A feature long dismissed as coincidence. But what if it wasn't random at all? What if it had been a marker pointing directly to this location? The team exchanged looks. No one needed to say it out loud. The door spoken of in old accounts and whispered in legends. It wasn't symbolic. It was real. And they were standing right in front of it. But the story didn't start here. Long before European explorers ever reached these shores, indigenous Mi'kmaq traditions spoke of a hidden gate buried deep within the island, sealed by powerful forces of fire and water. A place not meant to be disturbed, a warning. One that suddenly felt very real. Rick couldn't ignore it. Then came another piece of the puzzle, an old French journal from the 1600s. Faded ink, fragile pages, but one line stood out clearly. A stone door, sealed with oil and blood. For years, historians brushed it off as myth, but now, inches away from their hands, was something that matched it almost perfectly. Rick and Marty Lagina began connecting the dots, linking this discovery to medieval practices where sacred objects and forbidden treasures were hidden beneath fortified structures, protected not by guards, but by design. Could Oak Island have been one of those places, a hidden sanctuary, an archive of something far greater? The team recalled old reports, strange lights flickering across the swamp and near the money pit over the years. Stories many had dismissed as ghost tales. But standing here now, it felt different. Those weren't hauntings. They were warnings. Or maybe protection. What became clear was chilling. Oak Island wasn't just engineered to keep people out. It had been constructed with purpose, combining belief, science, and secrecy into something far more complex than anyone imagined. And the proof was carved into the stone itself. As they examined the slab more closely, intricate markings began to emerge: perfect circles, aligned stars, repeated crosses, not random scratches, not damage, a system. Experts were brought in, and the results were shocking. The patterns resembled a cipher, a mechanical code system believed to have been used by the Knights Templar to secure their most valuable secrets. Rick studied the alignment carefully, and then stopped cold. The carvings mirrored the night sky of the year 1307, the exact year the Templars were betrayed and hunted across Europe. Coincidence? Or a timestamp, carved into stone? The resemblance to Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland was undeniable. Same geometric precision, same symbolic language. It was as if history itself had crossed oceans to leave a message here. Weeks of analysis led to a stunning realization. This wasn't just decoration. It was a mechanism, a primitive locking system built into the stone, designed to open only with the correct sequence. Not just a door, a coded gateway. And it had been waiting for over 700 years. To understand it further, LIDAR scans were used, peeling back centuries of mystery layer by layer. What they revealed left the entire team speechless. The slab wasn't simply wedged into the ground, it was engineered, interlocked with gear-like structures, perfectly meshing into the surrounding bedrock. This wasn't collapse, this was construction. Precision construction. Even more shocking, the hinge points contained metal, unlike anything native to the region. Analysis showed an alloy matching medieval Iberian craftsmanship, linked to areas where the Templars once thrived. Marty raised doubts. Could this have been built later by unknown settlers? But the data didn't support that. Radiocarbon testing of wooden supports sealed behind the slab dated back to between 1290 and 1310. Exactly the period when the Templars vanished. The conclusion was unavoidable. This wasn't colonial, this wasn't pirate work. This was medieval, and it had been here long before Columbus ever arrived. Hydraulic estimates suggested the slab weighed over 20 tons. Moving something like this with such precision should have been impossible at the time. Yet here it stood, designed to resist water, pressure, and centuries of decay. Rick ran his hand across the ancient carvings one final time. "This isn't a trap," he said quietly. "It's a door built with purpose, hidden with intent, and waiting for this exact moment in history." Then it happened. The drills cut into the edge of the slab, and suddenly a sharp hiss echoed through the chamber. Compressed air burst outward, like the final breath of something that had been sealed away for centuries. The chamber beyond had been sealed with such precision that even its air had remained trapped for centuries. When the opening finally gave way, a strange breath escaped, thick, metallic, and stale. It carried hints of pitch, cedar oil, and something far more unsettling. Gas detectors immediately reacted, flashing warnings as traces of mercury vapor filled the confined space. Historians had long documented that the Knights Templar used mercury not only to preserve sacred objects, but also as a barrier against intruders. It was a warning, a silent one, but impossible to ignore. Rick steadied the team, his voice controlled, but heavy with the weight of what they were facing. Whatever lay beyond this point had not been meant to be discovered. It had been protected, by design, by oath, and by those who believed their secret was worth guarding beyond death itself. Still, they pushed forward, the drills pressed on, and the stone slab groaned under the pressure. Cracks spread across its surface like a web, dust rising into the beam of their lights. Then, finally, a piece broke free. Through the narrow opening, they saw it. Darkness, not empty darkness, but something deeper, something that felt present. From inside, a fragment of oak was carefully retrieved. Later, testing placed its age between 1290 and 1310. Exactly when the Templars vanished from Europe, their fleets missing, their knowledge erased. The connection was impossible to ignore. What had disappeared overseas may have been hidden here. Then, with one final push, the slab shifted. Grinding against its stone fittings, it gave way, and the chamber opened fully for the first time in centuries. Stepping inside felt like crossing into another world. The air was suffocating, Light spilled across smooth walls coated in a lime-based plaster, an advanced waterproofing method known in Mediterranean construction, but unheard of in this region during that time. Whoever built this knew exactly what they were doing. Faded red markings covered the walls, ghost-like symbols barely visible under the light. Circles resembling suns, crescent shapes, and a 7-pointed star. Rick recognized the pattern immediately. It mirrored the ancient seal of Solomon, a symbol tied to hidden knowledge and sacred protection. Wooden supports lined the passage, crafted with remarkable precision. The joints were advanced, far beyond what colonial builders could achieve. This wasn't the work of desperate treasure hunters. This was organized, deliberate, built by skilled hands following a larger plan. Then came the scent, faint but unmistakable, not decay, but resin, oil, and something sweeter, like incense once burned in ceremony. The smell lingered, woven into the air itself. This wasn't just a tunnel. It was a place of ritual, a space built with purpose and guarded with intention. As they moved deeper, the passage suddenly opened into a domed chamber. Instantly, something felt different. The sound. Every step echoed, multiplying across the curve. Even the quietest movement returned as a chorus. This space had been designed for sound, for voices, for something spoken or chanted. Rick swept his light across the walls, and there they were, small carved niches evenly spaced. Inside them, fragments remained, corroded blades, broken chain links, painted pottery shards. Not random debris, offerings, remnants left behind with meaning. The soil told the rest of the story. It was thick with ash, layers of burned material embedded into the ground. Later, analysis would reveal traces of wood, bone, and oils not native to the region. This chamber had seen fire, not destruction, but ritual. Flames had once filled this space, leaving behind a weight that still lingered in the air. At the center of the room stood something unmistakable, a raised stone platform, perfectly shaped, too precise to be decorative. Grooves spiraled outward across its surface, carved with intention, as if something had once been placed there, aligned with exact balance. Rick knelt, running his fingers along the channels. This wasn't an altar, it was part of a mechanism. That suspicion became certainty when a crew member tapped it lightly with a metal rod. The sound echoed back, deep and hollow. There was space beneath it. Another chamber, hidden below. The floor itself began to reveal its secret. Beneath layers of dust, interlocking stone panels became visible. Fitted so tightly they appeared seamless at first glance. But they weren't fixed. They were designed to move. Faint wear marks along the grooves suggested centuries of subtle shifting. A pattern emerged, a labyrinth carved into stone, a puzzle. Rick recognized the design immediately. Similar mechanisms had been documented in medieval structures linked to the Knights Templar, hidden passage systems that only revealed themselves when pressure was applied in the correct sequence. The realization sent a chill through the team. This wasn't just engineering, it was intelligence. But with that came danger. Marty warned that one wrong move could destabilize the entire chamber. If the system failed, the collapse would be instant. Still, Rick saw it differently. This wasn't built to destroy those who understand it, he said. It was built to stop those who don't. Carefully, the team placed wooden supports across key points, distributing weight with precision. Every move was calculated, every decision debated. Then, they committed. A low rumble filled the chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling as one section of the floor slowly shifted backward, revealing something hidden for centuries below. The stone platform continued to slide back, slowly, heavily, like a massive drawer carved from the earth itself. Light from their torches spilled into the opening, revealing a narrow staircase, hand-cut, descending deeper into the unknown. The air shifted instantly. A cold current rushed upward, sharper than before, as if the earth had just exhaled after centuries of silence. Step by step, the team moved downward. The passage tightened, guiding them into a smaller corridor that ended abruptly at something both stunning and deeply unsettling. Another barrier, a door. Not just any door, but a thick slab of oak, reinforced with iron, sealed with layers of pitch that still gleam dark even after hundreds of years. Heavy crossbars stretched across it, built not just for strength, but as a warning. This wasn't meant to keep something safe. It was meant to keep something in. The details told their own story. The hinges bore a distinct double cross marking, the same symbol found on Templar graves scattered across Europe. A signature, a claim, proof. This place belonged to the Knights Templar. Above the doorway, carved into the stone, a Latin inscription remained perfectly preserved: Solus Fidelis Transit Indignis. Only the faithful may pass, the unworthy shall perish. For a moment, no one moved, but Rick Lagina didn't hesitate. He reminded the team this was never just about gold. Every discovery they'd made pointed to something far greater. This was about protection, about secrecy, about guarding something that mattered more than wealth itself. Standing there in that narrow passage, they weren't just opening a door. They were crossing into the core of a design meant to endure for centuries. The door stood before them like a final test. Then, the cutting began. Sparks erupted as plasma torches sliced into the iron crossbars. The chamber filled with the sharp scent of burning metal. Each cut echoed through the stone, breaking a silence that had lasted generations. It felt like the structure itself was resisting. One by one, the bars gave way, until the final one snapped loose, crashing to the ground in a burst of glowing sparks. Then came the seal, thick, tar-like pitch that had locked the door shut for centuries. Heated blades cut into it, and with a sharp cracking sound, it broke. A rush of air burst outward, but it wasn't foul. It carried a faint scent. Cedar, almost like incense preserved in darkness. Deliberate, intentional. This chamber hadn't just been sealed, it had been preserved. The door creaked open, hinges groaning under the weight of time, until a narrow gap formed. Light poured in, and what lay beyond stopped everyone cold. Inside, shelves carved directly into stone walls stretched across the chamber, organized, precise, and on them, objects, hundreds of them, bronze vessels, clay containers, iron-bound chests, small shrine-like reliquaries placed with careful intention. This wasn't chaos, this was order, a vault, designed like an archive. As the light moved across the room, gold began to reflect from every direction. Coins spilling from open containers, bars stacked in neat rows, chalices catching the light with blinding intensity. It was overwhelming, not scattered treasure, but curated, placed, cataloged by hands long gone. The team stood frozen, not just from the sight of gold, but from the realization of what had been preserved here. Carefully, they stepped inside. What followed would become one of the most significant discoveries ever made. The first artifacts examined were ornate reliquaries, crafted from gold and set with sapphires, rubies, and pearls. Their design suggested they once held sacred relics, perhaps bone fragments, pieces of holy artifacts, or remains of revered figures. If true, this chamber had once protected items of immense spiritual value. Below them, rows of gold ingots lined the shelves, each stamped, not with British or Spanish marks, but with symbols traced back to medieval Portugal. Dates aligned with the 12th and 13th centuries, the height of Templar influence. Individually, each piece was priceless. Together, they were beyond value. Nearby, wooden crates held sealed scroll tubes, their wax caps still intact. One had cracked slightly, revealing tightly rolled parchment inside. If those documents survived, they could contain lost records, trade routes, internal orders, or knowledge erased from history during the Templar Purge, proof that their network reached far beyond what anyone believed. And beside them, ceremonial swords, their hilts encrusted with jewels, silver chalices rimmed with emeralds, each piece telling its own story, each one a fragment of a past that had been hidden, until now. These were not weapons of war or everyday objects. They were ceremonial pieces, crafted for rituals, symbols of authority and devotion. Their careful arrangement inside the vault made one thing clear. This wasn't a place for trade or storage. This was sacred, a hidden treasury built to protect both faith and secrets. Early estimates placed the value of what they had uncovered at over $90 million. But the truth was, money couldn't measure this discovery. These artifacts belonged to a lost chapter of Christendom, objects that blurred the line between legend and reality. For historians, it was groundbreaking. For treasure hunters, it was the moment they had spent a lifetime chasing. But even as the team absorbed what stood before them, their scanning equipment began to reveal something unexpected, something more. Behind one section of the chamber wall, the readings shifted, the density changed. There was empty space beyond it, not just a small pocket, but something larger, much larger. The outlines hinted at additional rooms, sealed chambers, possibly an entire network hidden in silence for centuries. Then came the most striking detail. On the far wall, another shape emerged, carved into the stone. But this wasn't like the oak and iron door they had just opened. This one was massive. The chisel marks were still visible, preserved through time, outlining an entrance far greater in scale. While the current chamber held treasures arranged with precision, this second doorway suggested something entirely different, something bigger. Not just a vault, but an archive, a repository of knowledge, relics, and secrets too vast to fit in a single room. Rick Lagina studied the markings closely, his expression tightening as the realization set in. "This isn't just treasure," he said quietly. "This is preservation." He began to piece it together. This chamber wasn't meant to hold riches alone. It was part of something far more ambitious. A hidden archive, possibly created by exiled members of the Knights Templar to safeguard not only their wealth, but their knowledge, their beliefs, and their secrets. What they had discovered here might only be a fraction, a small piece of a much larger system, a network that could stretch across oceans, linked to other hidden sites, other lost histories, erased from the record. The implication was staggering, a deeper mystery, one that promised to challenge everything we thought we knew about the medieval world and the true reach of the Knights Templar, long before the age of exploration ever began.